The khayd is a thread in Arabic, sah? Thread, a thick thread. So this companion, radiallahu anhu, Adi ibn Hatim, radiallahu anhu, when he heard the verse, done his suhoor, lakin he carried on eating up until he can differentiate between the khayd al-abyad wa khayd al-aswad, the black thread and the white thread. طيب. Carried on eating up until he could tell from it. And then it was daylight, طبعا. For him to be able to tell this is black and this is white, it has to be what? Daylight. Then when he got back to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously he explained what he thought, like in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam corrected him, like he did not command him to repeat his fasting. That's because obviously he had no knowledge of it. And that goes for any of the things that nullify siyam. Lakin, there's a difference between who is accepted from and who isn't accepted from. For someone, mathalan, that's attended this class or attended other classes where books of siyam have been discussed or talked about, and he says, I didn't know food was haram. That sort of individual is accepted from him. No, their fast is invalid and they have to make up that day. طيب. What if a person reverts to Islam, has never been in a Muslim environment, has always lived in a Muslim country, and he genuinely doesn't know the ruling on it?
He's not excused, because if he's living in a Muslim country where there's people that he can ask and there's people that talk about these kind of issues and discuss it, then...
That's what I said, yeah. If he's in a non-Muslim country, I said. If he's in a non-Muslim country where it's not possible for him to find out, then he is excused. طيب. What about if he says, I knew that it was haram, lakin I didn't know that it nullifies the fasting?
Same thing. Still excused, yeah.
Why?
Because he still doesn't know that it nullifies fast. It depends where he is.
Yeah. He knew it was haram. That's enough. As long as he knew it was haram, that's enough. Or he can't say, I didn't know what the punishment was. So remember the companion that came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Halakt wa ahlakt ya Rasulullah." Rasulullah, I have destroyed myself and I have destroyed, my wife. He performed intercourse with his wife during the month of Ramadan. What did the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell him? Told him to free a slave, sah? And then? Ala kulli, yeah, 2 months fasting or feed 60 people, sah? طيب. Did the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam say to him, because you didn't know that you had to feed 60 people or you had to fast 2 months in a row, or that you had to free a slave, because you didn't know the punishment, then you're excused? La. This individual knew that it was haram to do during the month of Ramadan, and because of that he was held accountable. طيب. So if a person does it intentionally, then he is sinning. طيب. Now the Shaykh is moving on to things that don't nullify a person's fasting. أو طار إلى حلقه ذباب أو غبار. So if a fly goes into one's throat, or غبار, or dust, أو فكر فأنزل, or he thinks about intercourse or anything that can lead to it, and then many comes out because of him thinking, or احتلم, if he has a wet dream, أو أصبح في فيه طعام فلفظه, or if he wakes up with food in his mouth and then he spits it out, or اغتسل, or has غسل, or تمضمض, or rinses his mouth, or استنثر, or blows his nose out, or زاد على ثلاثة, or he increases upon 3 times, يعني increases rinsing the nose 3 times, or بالغ, or exaggerates, فدخل الماء إلى حلقه, or دخل الماء حلقه, or the water it goes into his throat, لم يفسد. So if a person does any of these things, then it doesn't nullify the sawm. So a person can have a ghusl if dust goes in your throat or some water goes into your throat accidentally whilst performing wudu. Then all of these things don't nullify a person's wudu. A person's what? Wudu? A person's fast. طيب. The Shaykh is about to mention a few masail before moving on to the next chapter. وَمَنْ أَكَلَ شَاكًا, the one who eats shakan whilst having a doubt, fi طلوع الفجر, whilst having a doubt, has the time of dawn come or not? يعني the time to start the fasting, has it come or not? صح صومه. صح صومه. Then his fast is valid. So anyone who...
Sorry. If this for the person who he knows it's Ramadan, but he doesn't know whether the time of fasting started or not, or whether...
La, the one who we've passed that stage. We're on the person who's actually fasting now.
That's what I'm saying. The one who's fasting, and now he's done his suhoor. He's carrying on eating.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, yeah. وَمَنْ أَكَلَ, the one who eats, شَاكٍ فِي طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ, whether the sun has risen or not. Well, not really the sun has risen, whether the time of suhoor has ended or not. The Shaykh says, صَحَّ صَوْمُهُ. So, مثلا, if a person wakes up and he doesn't know whether or not the time has ended, like he knows it was night time. He knows it was night time and he carried on eating. مثلا, if the time of suhoor is 4:30 and he wakes up at 4 o'clock or 4:15 and he carries on eating, like he has a doubt, even it gets to 4:32, 4:30, he has a doubt whether or not the time has entered, and the time for fasting has started, like he's carrying on eating whilst having a doubt. The Shaykh says صح صومه, then his fast is valid. Why is his fast invalid? Because the origin is that it was night time. The origin is that it was night time and he had a doubt whether or not the time had ended. So if he eats at that point, then his fasting is valid. لا إن أكل شاكا في غروب الشمس. لكن this مسألة, the Shaykh says لا. If he has a doubt in the sun, the sunset, and he eats, أو معتقدا أنه ليل, or he believes that it is night time, فبان النهار لا إن أكل شاكا في غروب الشمس. So his fasting is invalid if he what? According to the Shaykh, if he eats, if it's daytime, and then he has a doubt whether or not the sun has set, like he eats. He has a doubt whether or not the sun has set. Like he's sure it is daytime, صح? Then he has a doubt whether or not the sun has set. The Shaykh is saying his fast is invalid. Read the English part, Adam. Page 143.
Whoever ate while doubting that the sun has risen, their fast is valid.
Best. Everyone understand that part? If a person wakes up in the morning method and they don't know what time it is, like and they knew it was night time, but they have a doubt and they eat, then their fast is valid, the Shaykh says. Carry on.
But the fast is invalid if they ate while doubting whether the sun has set, while believing that it is nighttime and it turns out to be daytime.
طيب. So if a person, the Shaykh says, but the fast is invalid if they ate while doubting whether or not the sun has risen. So it's daytime now. The sun hasn't set. So a person has a doubt, and it's طبعا there's only about 5 minutes or so left, or more, or just under. He has a doubt that the sun has risen, that the sun has set. If he eats, then his fast is what? The Shaykh says, invalid. Why? Because of the doubt. He knew it was daytime. So the asl for this case is that it is daytime. Why is it daytime? Because obviously he's been fasting all day and the sun hasn't set yet. So he's sure it is daytime. Meaning he's sure it is wajib for him to carry on fasting and refrain from breaking his fast. Because of that doubt, then his fasting is invalid. Or believing that it is night time. So this person believes that it's night time and it turns out to be daytime. مثلا he can look at the clock. Like at times, when we're talking about the Shaykh is writing this, where they're relying on the sun, the timing. They're actually looking at when the sun sets or not. Now, if you have a calendar, none of these issues will come about. Why? Because you look in the calendar. Whether you wake up late or not, if the calendar says fasting, it starts at 4:40, then if you eat at 4:45, you've what? You've eaten.
No, what I'm saying
No, I'm talking. I wasn't actually just referring to you. I'm talking about like in these issues in general. These last three issues, they go back to the person who's looking at the sun and trying to work out when the sun is set and when it hasn't set. Yeah? Like with the second one. Naam. So for example, he believes it is night time. He believes it is night time, like it turns out to be daytime. So he doesn't have a doubt. He actually believes it is what? معتقد أنه الليل. فبان النهار. لكن he turns out to be daytime. على كل حال, if a person has a doubt, اليقين لا يزول بالشك. A person implements that which he is certain of. So if he's certain that it is daytime, then that is what he's certain of, and he doesn't break his fast. If he is certain that it is what? If he is certain that it is night time and the time of suhoor hasn't ended, then he carries on eating. And how will he know the yaqeen or the time? By looking into the calendar, or by looking into the time where the dawn or the pre-dawn meal ends. طيب. The next masala is also a masala that nullifies the fasting, lakin it's different to all of the other ones. All of the things that we've mentioned in the last chapter that nullify the fasting, if a person falls into any of them, what should he do? Firstly, they're sinning and they need to make up the fast. And they can't carry on eating on that day. Sah? طيب. The issue that the Shaykh is now about to mention is sexual intercourse. Now, sexual intercourse or breaking your fast via sexual intercourse is different to any of the others, eating, drinking, and so on. Because firstly, you have to make up the day that you broke your fasting, but you have to also expiate for the breaking of the fast with intercourse. Like the man who came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Halaktu ya Rasulullah, ya Rasulullah, I have been destroyed." And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him an option of three things. Firstly, the Messenger commanded him to free a slave, and he said he doesn't have any slaves. Or to fast 2 months in a row. And the man said, I can't fast 2 months in a row. I can't fast 2 months in a row. For whatever reason. Then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, feed 60 poor people, 60 miskina, 60 poor people. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded him to expiate for his sin. So this is why the Shaykh has made this chapter separate from all of the other things that nullify the fasting. Because this one has an extra deed, which is that a person has to expiate for the fact that he broke his fast. The Shaykh says, وَمَنْ جَامَعَ فِي نَهَارِ رَمَضَانِ وَمَنْ جَامَعَ فِي نَهَارِ رَمَضَانِ فِي قُبُلٍ أَوْ دُبُرٍ فَعَلَيْهِ الْقَضَاءُ وَالْكَفَارَةُ. The Shaykh starts off with, whoever has vaginal or anal intercourse during the days of Ramadan. During the days of Ramadan, في قبل أو دبر فعليه القضاء والكفارة. Then upon him is qada, the one who performs intercourse during the month of Ramadan, the days of Ramadan. Then upon him is qada, making up that day that he broke, the fast that he broke, and al-kafara. And kafara is what? Expiation. What is that expiation? I said it about 10 times. Huh? In that order. So let's go back to the wording of the Shaykh. وَمَنْ جَامَعَ. The Shaykh says whoever has intercourse. That takes away a person who kissing or fondling or foreplay, anything like that, takes that out of the equation. Because we mentioned that in the last chapter, or the last few issues. طيب. في نهار Ramadan, during the days of Ramadan. What does that take out? If a person نعم, takes out, firstly takes out the night. So in the evening, طبعا, فالآن باشروهن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so now you can have sexual relations with them. طيب. That is what? In the night time. Also, Ramadan. So if a person is fasting on a Monday and a Thursday, and he performs or has intercourse, then do they need to expiate, feed 60 people or 60 masakeen or free a slave? La. Why? Because it's specific to Ramadan. Is that masala understood? What if a person is making up Ramadan? مثلا he was a traveller during Ramadan 3 days, and he's making those 3 days straight after Eid. And then he's making up the days of Ramadan, like he has intercourse on one of those days that he's making up during Ramadan. No what?
Yeah, it's not during.
He's not sinning, did you say?
No.
Why?
Because it's not in Ramadan.
He broke his fast.
He's got the whole of the year.
He's got the whole year, but he decided to do it on this day. صحيح فعدة من أيام أخرى. He can make it up any time before the next year. Lakin he decided to make it up on this day.
Okay, but if he breaks it, he's still got another day to make it up.
Lakin we're talking about the fact that he started the fasting, which is wajib.
Yeah.
It's outside of
It's outside of Ramadan.
It's outside of Ramadan, so therefore there's no expiation. طبعا there's قضاء, obviously he's broken his fast, lakin there's no expiation. طيب نقوم فعليه الكفارة. وإن جامع, the Shaykh says وإن جامع. In these situations that the Shaykh is about to mention, these examples, then there's qada, the person has to make it up, lakin there's no kafara. وإن جامع دون الفرج, lakin if he has intercourse in anything, in other than, while it's not going into the vagina, lakin foreplay or fondling or kissing, فأنزل, and then he ejaculates or sees many comes out or sperm comes out, or كانت المرأة معذورة, or the woman is excused, or كانت المرأة معذورة, أو جامع من نوى الصوم. طيب. أو جامع من نوى الصوم في سفر أفطر لا كفارة. أو جامع, or the person has intercourse with a person who, or he intends to fast and he goes on his journey, أفطر ولا كفارة. He intends to go on a journey, he intends to go on a journey, which means that he can break his fast. Then in that case, if he performs intercourse, in that case, in that situation where he's traveling, أفطر ولا كفارة, then he performs kafara, he performs the salat, the fasting, again he does qada, lakin he doesn't have to do the kafara. Let's come back to it. طيب, it's not confusing. The matn is easy, lakin it's the first time you studied it. It's the first time you studied it. So it's very different to Manhaj al-Salikin. The wordings that are used is different. This book, the Shaykh wrote it like hundreds of years ago. So طبعا the wording that he uses, even in Arabic, even if a person was to be studying in Arabic, it requires the teacher to reword the wording that the Shaykh has used. So imagine explaining it in a different language. You need to reword it twice. طيب. The Shaykh says, وَإِن جَامَعَ دُونَ الْفَرْجِ, that's understandable. If a person, due to foreplay or anything, ejaculates, then their fast is invalid, lakin they don't have to make up the kafara. فَأَنزَلَ أَوْ كَانَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ مَعْذُورَةً, lakin if the woman was ma'ذورة, excused, if the woman was excused from, had a valid reason for having intercourse. So he says the fast is broken, but there's no expiation if he stimulates himself outside of the private plans, if the woman who the intercourse was with is excused by ignorance, forgetfulness, or being forced. So when the Shaykh is mentioning ma'dura, or if have you all got this in front of you? La? You've got it in front of you now? Ala kulli hal, the Shaykh says, the English translation being, the fast is broken, but there is no expiation. Meaning there's qada, lakin there's no kafara. There's no kafara, meaning they don't have to make up the kafara of feeding 60 people and so on. Assalamu alaikum. What do you want?
My sister needs the paper.
Oh no, do you know, this is my copy, sorry, I don't have extra copies. Like, because of that, go on, you can take it. Barakallahu feek. طيب. Read it out, read it out.
The fast is open.
La, the fast is broken, like in this expiation. Read that bit.
The fast is broken.
Listen, concentrate, please. La, no expiation. These things that the brother is about to mention now, let's put the Arabic to one side. These things that the brother is about to mention now, they break the fast, like in there's no expiation, there's no kafara, meaning you don't have to feed 60 people, you don't have to fast 2 days, you don't have to free a slave, so on. Faddal.
The fast is broken, but there is no expiation if
Fahimtum? You understood? Understand? طيب. Carry on.
first one, he stimulates himself outside of her private parts. If
طيب.
even
So,
if intentional.
even if intentional. So if a person does foreplay, has foreplay, and he ejaculates, his fast is what? Broken. Lakin, does he have to do the kafara? La. Carry on.
Second, the woman who the intercourse was with is excused.
طيب. So there's a man and a woman, intercourse. He's saying the woman is excused. طيب. The woman is what?
Excused.
طيب.
Number three,
La. Carry on. The woman is excused. What's after
by
that?
ignorance,
By ignorance, forgetfulness,
or being forced.
or being forced. What's after that?
Someone intending to
Yes, he goes on to another one. So he's saying if two people have intercourse, a man and a woman, he's saying the woman, afwan, is excused due to what? Read it out. Forgetfulness.
ignorance, or being forced.
Why is that? Why is the woman excused and the man isn't excused? Due to these excuses, why? معذورة بالجهل. So if she's ignorant of the ruling, then she is excused, the Shaykh said. يعني, that's what we understand from the masala. Or if she forgets, or if she is forced. These three incidents require these three cases, for the woman she's excused, like in the man isn't excused. Why is that?
Because man knows.
The woman's been forced in the last instance. Saeed, طيب.
The man
Knows what? The man knows what? The woman, what does the man know that the woman doesn't know?
that he's influenced by fasting.
She, لا, طيب, what if a man doesn't know the ruling?
He knows when he's going to release. He knows when he's going to release.
طيب, what about the woman? She doesn't know?
Yeah, she doesn't know.
And the fourth fast, the being forced. If the woman, can't the man get forced? Huh? No, I'm not saying this for the fun of it. There's a reason why I'm saying it. The forcing part, the reason why they say, the fuqaha say, that a man can't be forced because he can't erect by being forced. That's what they say. A person can't get an erection if he's being forced. That's what they say. That's the reason why the man isn't excused from it. So if he really was being forced, naturally when a person is being forced to do something, do they do it out of pleasure? La. If a person is being forced to eat, they're forced to eat, like it's not due to any pleasure. So they're saying because of the erection, then his fast is invalid. It's impossible for him to be forced. طيب. Like in the reality is all of these issues, they're similar. They're equal. The man and the woman. The man and the woman. So if he does forget, or he forgets he's fasting and has intercourse, طبعا this can only happen if both of them forget. If both of them forget, then that's understandable. Like if one remembers and the other one forgets, then the one that remembers should remind the one that's forgotten. صح? طيب. As for nisyan, that can happen. Jahl, being ignorant of the mas'ala. Again, if two people have intercourse during the month of Ramadan and they're jahil, they're ignorant that it is haram, then in that case, again, what? It doesn't nullify their fasting. Why? due to ignorance. They didn't know the ruling of it. There's a difference between not knowing the actual ruling and not knowing the fact that their fast is broken and that their fast is what? And they have to expiate, feed, free a slave or fast 2 months. There's a difference between the two. Is that understood? طيب. Carry on.
Someone intending to fast during his journey has intercourse.
Now, so if a person, a person who's intending to travel, who's on a travel and intending to travel, has intercourse while he's traveling and he's fasting, or while he intends to travel, then his fast is broken because of that intercourse, lakin there's no expiation. Why? Did you guys hear that?
No.
La, carry on, okay, carry on. I'm asking you guys. Why? مثلا الآن there's a musafir. He's traveling. And he has intercourse. The Sheikh says, أفطر, obviously he has broken his fast and he needs to make that day up. ولا كفارة, there's no kafara upon him. He doesn't expiate. Why? Yeah. Now, there's one of the sisters mentioned earlier on as well. It wasn't wajib for him to fast, aslan. It wasn't wajib for him to fast. So because of that, he had an excuse. He had the concession of being able to break his fast. And because of that, then his fast is broken, like he doesn't have to do kafara. طيب. The Sheikh says, وَإِن جَامَعَ فِي يَوْمَيْن if a person has intercourse 2 days in a row. See, this is one of the other words that require, one of the other sentences that requires changing the wording. I'll read the English one. If the expiation has been paid and he has intercourse on 2 different days. So, مثلا, a person on Monday has intercourse. His fast is broken, sah? And what does he also have to do? Is kafara, sah? Okay. Again, on Tuesday, he hasn't paid the Monday's kafara, and obviously he can't make the day up. On Tuesday, he does the same act, does intercourse. What does he do? His fast is broken and he has to expiate, sah? For both of them. So he has to feed 60 and 60, 120 masakin, sah? And he has to make up those 2 days. The Sheikh says, أو كرر في يوم, or he repeats his intercourse 2 days in a row. ولم يكفر, he repeats intercourse on 1 day, on several occasions in 1 day, and twice on 1 day. ولم يكفر, and he did not expiate for the first one. What should he do? Does he need to expiate for 2 or 1? Why? It's on the same day. So he broke his fast and it was 1. طيب. واحدة في الثانية وفي الأولى اثنتان. طيب. So for the first situation he has to do 2 kafaras. And the second situation he has to do what? 1. So if he repeats intercourse twice in 1 day, he only has to make 1 kafara. Why? And that's based on the fact that if he hasn't already paid the expiation. If he hasn't already paid the expiation, then he has to what? Only do 1 expiation. Why? Because he hasn't done the first one. طيب. The third one, وَإِن جَامَعَ ثُمَّ كَفَّرَ, like if he performs intercourse, then does the expiation on the same day, ثُمَّ جَامَعَ, and then he has intercourse on the same day, في يومه فَكَفَارَةٌ ثَانِيَةٌ. Then he has to make another kafara. How many kafaras in 1 day? 2. What's the difference between this one and the one we mentioned earlier on? He hasn't paid the kafara, the first kafara aslan. Because he hasn't paid the kafara, then he needs to pay only 1. But if he pays the kafara after having intercourse, pays the kafara, and then does intercourse again, he has to pay for the second one as well. Why? Because of the sacredness of the time. These things probably will never occur, like that's the point that we're explaining. وَكَذَا مَنْ لَزِمُهُ الْإِمْسَاكِ إِذَا جَامَعَ. also the Shaykh says, and also it is the same for anyone who is required to stay away from food, abstain from food if they perform intercourse. Remember at the beginning of the chapter, at the beginning of the lesson, we said that there are people who have also already broken their fast, they're not expected to fast, like, and they have to abstain from food. Such as, according to the Shaykh, such as who? The traveller, traveller, the person who is ill and then becomes, who's cured. Who else? The menstruated woman, who else? The one who's had intercourse. Nah. Huh? Reaches puberty. Take that one out because it's wajib for him to fast. We're talking about the person who had a valid excuse to fast in the morning, lakin the Shaykh says he has to abstain from food. For example, the traveller, person who is travelling in the early part of the day and then during Asr time, 2 o'clock-ish, he comes back to his home. At this moment he's a traveller, so he was a traveller, so he wasn't fasting. Like when he gets home, the Shaykh says he has to still carry on what? Abstaining from food. He shouldn't eat. That's what the Shaykh said, sir. No.
He can't eat.
According to the Shaykh, he can't eat. According to the Shaykh, he can't eat.
So all of them should abstain.
Now, مثلا, for example, the woman whose menses ended at 12 o'clock or at dhuhr time. طيب. I'll give you an example. A woman's menses ends at dhuhr time. طيب. After dhuhr, she's not on menses, صح? طيب. Is she allowed to eat according to the madhab? لا, she's not allowed to. She has to abstain from food, صح? But is she fasting? لا, طيب. Her husband was travelling in the early part of the day, and he comes back from his travelling. He comes back after dhuhr, same time. After dhuhr, should he carry on fasting? Or obviously he wasn't even fasting in the first place. Should he start his fasting from there on?
Yes.
Why?
No.
Yeah? He can't carry on. He was eating earlier on. He's broken his fast. Huh? Lakin he should abstain from food, as the Shaykh says. Sah?
When you say he should abstain from food, or she should abstain from food, don't eat.
Isma, you wasn't here at the beginning of the lesson, sah?
Yeah,
So we're gonna explain it later. So for those that were here in the beginning of the lesson, you understand what I say by abstain from food, sah? So these two people have to abstain from food. Why?
Because
Is it because they're fasting?
the sacredness of the time.
The sacredness of the time. طيب. The Shaykh says, وَكَذَا مَنْ لَزِمَهُ الْإِمْسَاكِ. And likewise for the person who has to abstain and refrain from eating, إِذَا جَامَعَ. Meaning that they have to do kafara. They have to expiate. So if those two individuals, that scenario that I mentioned, the husband that came back from travel in the wood, yeah? That example, if they have intercourse in that situation, even though they're not fasting, the Shaykh is saying what? Perform kafara. They have to make up that day. Obviously they would have made it up anyway, sah? But they also have to what? Do the kafara. They have to free a slave, fast, or if they can't, then fast 2 months in a row. Or if they can't, they have to feed 16 poor people. 60, sorry, not 16. 60 poor people, sah? Is that masala understood? Why? La, that's if she forgot, or if she was ignorant, or if she was forced. This one wasn't forced, nor was she ignorant. She knew haram, and she remembered. She knows what she was doing. It wasn't out of forgetfulness. So that's the situations where she would be forgiven. Good question. So those two people, these two individuals, have to abstain from fasting. Have to do kafara. So when we said, like in the qawl rajih, the stronger opinion is that they don't have to abstain from fasting. Sah? That's what we said. This question is to the sisters. We said the qawl rajih is what? That they don't have to abstain from fasting. They don't have to. طيب. According to that opinion, will this mas'ala come into it? La, they wouldn't have to do it anyway. There'd be no kafara on them. There'd be no expiation upon them. Why? Because it was halal for them to do intercourse, or for anyone, but they don't have to abstain from eating. The Shaykh says, نعم. The Shaykh says also, وَمَنْ جَامَعَ, or the one who has intercourse, وَهُوَ مُعَافَى, whilst he is healthy, أو ثُمَّ مَرِضَ, and then becomes ill, أو جُنَّ, or then he becomes insane, أو سَافَرَ, and then has intercourse, لَمْ تَسْقُطْ, then it doesn't drop from him. What doesn't drop? The kafara, the expiation. Then he has to do expiation. So for example, the example that the Shaykh is mentioning, a person who was healthy, no illness, nothing, طيب, and he wasn't a traveller, he has intercourse whilst he's at home and he's healthy. Haram, صح? صح? And his fast is what? Valid or invalid? And also, he has to do expiation. So, if that individual decides to travel and say, right, if that's the case, I'm going to travel, will that avail him? Will that help him? La. Why? Because at the time of the offence, he was what? Resident, he wasn't a traveller. But what if a person goes insane? A person goes insane, goes crazy after Asr, and he performed intercourse before Dhuhr. Can he say? Can he say on that day I was insane? Can he say that? No, why? He became crazy after the act. طيب. Likewise, a person who was ill. If a person becomes ill after committing the offence, then he's still held accountable. ولا تجب الكفارة بغير الجماع في صيام رمضان. The kafara is not wajib if a person has intercourse outside of the month of Ramadan. We already talked about it. وهي, the Shaykh is now explaining the itq, or the kafara. وهي عتق رقبة. It is freeing a slave. So if a person has a slave or slaves, then it's wajib for him to expiate, then he has to free a slave. If he doesn't, if he doesn't have a slave, طبعا nowadays, فالصيام شهرين متتابعين, then he has to fast 2 days, متتابعين, back to back, meaning 60 days consistently. So if a person مثلا fast during the month of January and then February, or during, that's how a person should fast, 60 days, January and February, 60 days, not only 2 months, like in 60 days, because 2 months can be shorter than 60 days, so 60 days the person has to fast. طيب, what if a person after the 40th day says, I'm going to take a rest and I'm going to carry on tomorrow? What happens? He starts again. طيب. What if a person becomes ill? What if menses starts, woman's menses starts on the 58th day? It doesn't matter. Whether it starts or not. Likewise, if a person travels as well. So if he's not able to do 2 months in a row, فإطعام 60 مسكينا. If he's not able to do 60 days in a row, then he needs to feed 60 poor people. طيب. فإن لم يجد, and if he doesn't find anything to feed 60 poor people, سقطت, then he doesn't have to perform it, or he doesn't have to, then the blame is lifted upon him, so he doesn't have to do anything. There's a principle that we studied in Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya that is applicable here, which is what? Hassan, what's your name? لا واجب مع العجز. Even though they're no, it has to be in order. If a person is able to free a slave, they can't say I'm going to fast 2 months in a row because I need a slave. Because the Messenger ﷺ mentioned these three in what? In order. Mentioned these three in order. Freeing a slave, and if a person doesn't have a slave to free, then they need to fast 2 months in a row. They can't say, I can't fast 2 months in a row, it's too long, it's going to cause me difficulty, I'm going to feed 60 individuals. La, haram. A person has to fast 2 months in a row. That's a punishment, طبعا. طيب. There's a masala which is similar to this, that just reminds me, like in somewhere along the line, somewhere in the next chapter, I'm not sure if we're going to get time. Like it is a masala which is important, especially to the sisters and to everyone, because we've all got women in our families. If a person, and it can also be applicable to us, to men, if a person misses days during Ramadan, a person misses a certain number of days during Ramadan, to make up those days, he has got what? A whole year, sah? He can make up those days any time during, or any time before next Ramadan, sah? طيب. What if a person doesn't make it up before Ramadan, and the next Ramadan comes in without making it up? What should they do? طبعا they have to do qada, lakin they also have to feed a poor person for every day that they did not make up. Example, one of us was traveling and we missed 5 days. So from this Ramadan to next Ramadan we've got a whole year to what? To fast 5 days. If we forget to fast those 5 days and there isn't a valid reason, there's no reason, we could have fasted, there was no valid reason for us to miss these days, like in the next Ramadan comes and we still haven't fasted these 5, what should we do? طبعا we can't fast it during the next Ramadan, can we? Like we have to wait until that Ramadan is finished. Like when that Ramadan is finished, we make up these 5. Lakin as a punishment for every day, we have to feed a poor person. So you fast, lakin as a form of punishment for every single day, you feed a poor person. And that has been narrated by the companions and some scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qudama, rahmatullahi alayhi, they say there's no khilaf amongst the companions in this mas'ala. So if a person or if a sister has missed out a certain number of days and she still hasn't made it up from last year, then she should hurry up and make it up before this Ramadan comes in. Because if Ramadan comes in and she hasn't made it up and she doesn't have a valid excuse, then after Ramadan she has to not only make it up, like feed a poor person for every day. طيب.
Is this according to a certain madhab or is it?
لا, according to the madhab of the Sahaba. According to the madhab of the Sahaba, and there's no khilaf amongst the companions in this mas'ala. There's no khilaf amongst the companions in this mas'ala. If it doesn't really bother us what madhab takes this opinion, what madhab, the stronger opinion is the correct madhab. So this opinion, this madhab or this madhab, that isn't really our concern. Our concern is, has it been authentically narrated from the companions or not? Is this act closer, or is this ruling closer to the Quran and the Sunnah or not? So you will find that the scholars say that there's almost ijma' between the companions. There's no khilaf amongst the companions in this mas'ala. Things that are hated or disliked in the siyam, the Shaykh says, وَيُكْرَهُ جَمْعُ رِيقِهِ فَيَبْتَلِعَهُ. It is disliked for a person to gather his saliva and then swallow it. وَيَحْرُمْ بَلْعُ النَّخَامَ or nukhama, and it's also haram to take in the phlegm or eat or take it back in, swallow it back in. وَيُفْطِرُ بِهَا فَقَدْ إِنْ وَصَلَتْ إِلَى فَمِهِ. If it reaches his mouth and then he takes it back in, then it nullifies the person's fasting. وَيُكْرَهُ ذَوْقُ الطَّعَامِ بِلَا حَاجَةٍ. It's disliked to taste food without a need to do so. without a need to do so. Like if a person tastes it on his tongue and then spits it out, that isn't considered eating. That isn't considered eating. Because the mouth takes the ruling of the face. Remember in wudu when we were saying that a person has to wash the face, right? And the what? And the mouth. The mouth takes the ruling of the outside. We'll go back to it in Kitab al-Tahara, you will come across it. وَمَضْغُ عِلْكٍ قَوِيٍّ. Also it is disliked to take or chew hard gum. The gum that the Shaykh is referring to is gum that has no taste. We don't really, and it doesn't dissolve, it doesn't have any taste or any flavour. So it was known in their era or in their time, like it has no taste. It's like chewing plastic. وَإِن وَجَدَ دَعْمَهَا أو إن وجد طعمه ما في حلقه أفطر. Like if a person feels it in his throat, then his fast is broken. ويحرم علك المتحلل إن بلع ريقه. Also, if a person chews chewing gum, even though he's chewing on his tongue and he isn't taking it in, like if the saliva, if the flavour goes back in, then it is haram. وتكره القبلة لمن تحرك شهوته. And also, it is disliked for a person to kiss his wife. لمن تحرك شهوته, if he gets excited and if his shahwa is too much and therefore causes him to ejaculate. Like if a person can control himself and he doesn't ejaculate due to kissing, then he is excused from that, or it's permissible. ويجب اجتناب كذب, and then also it's wajib to stay away from كذب وغيبة وشتم, and swearing and ghiba, backbiting. These are the things that it's wajib to stay away from, and those that are disliked. وَسُنَّ لِمَنْ شُتِمَ قَوْلُهُ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. From the sunan, if a person is sworn at, someone swears at you or wants to fight you, then you say إِنِّي صَائِمٌ, verily I am fasting. وَتَأْخِيرُ السُّحُورِ, delaying the suhoor is also from the sunnah. وَتَعْجِيلُ الْفِطْرِ, and rushing the fitr, delaying the suhoor up until the point that it finishes. Like you can't keep eating after sunrise and say I'm delaying the suhoor. You have to only up to the point that it says on the calendar. Also ta'jilul fitr, also to rush the breaking of the fast, again after the time of maghrib has come in. You can't obviously after asr say I'm rushing the fasting and then break one's fast. على غضب فإن عدم فتمر فإن عدم فماء. Also from the sunnah is to break your fast upon or using dates. If you don't have dates, then water. وقول ما ورد, and also to make the dua, the ad'iyah that have been narrated in the Quran and the Sunnah. ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. Also, ويستحب القضاء متتابعا. Another mas'ala that Shaykh goes into is from the Sunnah to when the person is doing qada, when the person is making up the days that he or she missed, then it's Sunnah to do them in a row. Why? Because it's quicker and a person will be less of a risk of forgetting to make them up. طيب. ولا يجوز إلى رمضان آخر. And it's not permissible to delay the qada up until the next Ramadan. من غير عذر, without having a valid excuse. فإن فعل, if a person does delay the qada or making up the fast, if a person does delay the making up of the fast that he missed in Ramadan until the next Ramadan comes in, فإن فعل ذلك فعليه مع القضاء إطعام الستين أو إطعام مسكين لكل يوم. So if a person does delay the fasting, it's the masala that we were talking about a few minutes ago. If a person delays the making up of the fast until the next Ramadan comes in, the Shaykh says فعليه مع القضاء. Firstly, he has to do qada, lakin also he has to feed a poor person for every day. وإن مات ولو بعد رمضان آخر, even if he dies, he has to fast even if he dies, huh? لا طبعا he has to do the kafara even if he dies. يعني from his tarika, from his, if a person dies, from his wealth, the people in his inheritance, the people that inherit him, they feed a poor person from his wealth. Why? Because he missed the day that he was meant to make up, صح? So inshallah he'll be excused, may Allah forgive him for the day that he did not fast. Lakin the second part as a punishment is still upon him, which is what? To feed a poor person. وَإِن مَاتَ وَعَلَيْهِ الصَّوْمِ, if a person dies and there's fasting upon him, or hajj, or i'tikaf, or salat al-nadhrin, or salah that he has taken a vow to do, استحب لوليه قضاؤه, then it's sunnah for his wali, for his son or the person who is his wali, to perform that ibadah on his behalf. Based on different ahadith, من مات وعليه صيام صام عنه وليه, the one who dies once there is fast upon him, then his wali is recommended, or is sunnah for his wali, for his son, wife, whatever. The wali, the person who is closely connected to the person, to fast on that day on his behalf. طيب. Up to there we finished the book. طبعا time has run out. We haven't finished Kitab al-Siyam. There's still Sawm Tatawwu' and I'tikaf left. Lakin hopefully inshallah you can read it, or you can go back to Kitab al-Siyam when we studied it in Manhaj al-Salikin. Manhaj al-Salikin is the book that we study normally. This is just out of the blue.
If there was a person who was previously died and they didn't pray, they didn't fast, they didn't pick up Ramadan.
La, anyone who missed out a certain number of days from Ramadan or fasting whilst they were ignorant or not practicing, as they say, then they have to they have to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, and they have to be plentiful in doing the sunan, the acts which are sunnah, the nawafil, fasting Mondays and Tuesdays and so on, of doing the rawatib, the sunan. Lakin it is not wajib, they don't have to make up those days. Now, so what we've studied is the most important part of the fasting that is connected to the month that is about to come. These chapters that are left, the only important chapter that is connected to the fasting is Bab al-I'tikaf. And I'tikaf is staying in a masjid for the sake of ibadah lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, any questions? With I'tikaf, yeah, go on.
Downstairs.
Inside the masjid.
No, like that. At the door, but it's like right inside.
طيب.
I don't know.
When a person is performing i'tikaf, they should obviously stay in the masjid. Stay in the masjid. That's i'tikaf, is luzum al-masjid. It's staying in the masjid. طيب, for ibadah obviously. If there is a reason for them to go out, if there is a need for them to go out, for example, going out to get iftar, going out to get suhoor, or going out to use the bathroom, then all of that is permissible. So in that situation that you mentioned, if they're going out to get tea because it's iftar for them, then inshallah that's okay. It's equivalent to them going out just to get iftar and then coming back in. Like, and if they're going there just for the sake of it, just to spend time, and obviously it doesn't come underneath it. But yeah, so a person is allowed to go outside if there's a need to go outside. Like, other than that, they shouldn't go outside. They shouldn't even visit a sick person, an ill person, a janazah or anything like that. So the question, if someone has a doubt if they have made up the missed fast from the previous Ramadan, should they fast extra days? With this question, if someone has a doubt if they've made up the missed fast from the previous Ramadan, should they fast extra days? No, they don't need to fast extra days. They need to go back to the yaqeen. What is it that they're certain of? For example, if they've missed 7 days and they're certain that they fasted 3 days, but they're not sure about the remaining 4 days, then they need to make up 4 days. They need to go back to whatever it is that they're sure of. So there's obviously going to be a certain number. They're sure if they fasted or not, a certain number. Like, and if they're totally not sure, then that means they're in doubt. What are they sure of? The fact that they haven't made it up. Like, and they are in doubt that they have what? Made it up. So therefore they should make up these days. Someone has missed some Fard Salat before they were practicing, so did they have to go? Now we've answered that question already. The Masakeen that they have to It'amu Miskin. There's a khilaf amongst the scholars, because in issues to do with raqaba, even the servant that you have to free, or the miskeen, it's a nakira في سياق الإثبات فتفيد العموم. So, or the same as raqaba, فتحرير رقبة. رقبة has tanween, so it is mutlaq. على كل حال, there's difference of opinion, لكن feeding a poor person who's a Muslim is better. Lakin if you can't find, then hopefully it's okay to feed a non-Muslim. And the only reason I'm saying of feeding a poor person a Muslim, just to khuruj min khilaf, to get out of the khilaf. Lakin if a person can't find a Muslim to feed, then inshallah if they feed a non-Muslim, which is a miskin, then it should be fine.
If someone takes insulin injection, is there fast
Break. No, insulin it contains glucose, sir.
Sometimes it just has things which
Give you energy.
Allows you to basically use your food properly, the stuff that you eat.
The injections, wherever the injection is, if it's a substitute for food, then it's not permissible to have during the month of Ramadan or during the day when you're fasting. For example, sometimes a person goes into hospital and they give him drips. Now, drips is a form of food. طبعا they break your fast. So if that injection is similar to drips or glucose that people with diabetes have, then it breaks their fast.
You have like glucose, but your body isn't able to use it, and the injection allows you to use it. So,
Allahu A'lam. If it gives you energy, then it breaks your fast. If it's a substitute for food, then it breaks your fast. Can someone? Qadarullah, there's a mas'ala. We could have actually, no time obviously, like in the Shaykh says that women cannot perform, someone can't perform i'tikaf in their home because it should be, i'tikaf is to be performed in a masjid. I'tikaf is to be performed in a masjid, so it's not considered to be a masjid. It's not considered to be a masjid. Can women perform i'tikaf?
That's what they were drinking tea. I didn't know.
Huh?
I thought i'tikaf was just to
Say that again?
I thought i'tikaf was just to stay in the masjid. But then when I started seeing them drinking tea,
Who's them?
I done it last.
La astaghfirullah. So no, you confused me. I said, is i'tikaf?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said you ever done it.
Yeah, I said is i'tikaf. Is it permissible for women to perform i'tikaf? And you said to me, I saw them drinking in the calf. Any more questions? Wabillahi tawfiq. Right. Go on. Just one quick announcement or two. Go on.
Is the more correct opinion because some of the Ahmadiyya say that itikaf is valid in Masajid in Saudi,
It's only valid in the
Masjid
two masajid.
Nabawi and Masjid al-Haram.
3 masajid they say, and Aqsa as well.
What's the more?
La, it's permissible to perform i'tikaf in any masjid. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِد. فِي الْمَسَاجِد. Let's see if you guys revise قواعد الفقهية. Can anyone tell me where the mahal al-shahid is in this, or the point of evidence in this verse? Whoever knows, put your hand up. 2. 2. Who is here for قواعد الفقهية? تفضل. Every masjid. وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد. ولا تباشرون وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد. Do not have intercourse with them whilst you're performing اعتكاف in the masajid. الألف واللام تفيد العموم. It shows that what is being referred to is general. Generality يعني. So when we talk about masajid, then any masjid. It can be any masjid. So any masjid they could perform. No. We're finished now. Any masjid. Firstly, next week, inshallah, Sheikh Khalid al-Mushayqih is here. Sheikh Khalid al-Mushayqih, who is from one of the scholars of Saudi Qasim, students of Ibn Uthaymeen. He's in Regent's Park Masjid. It's organised by Medina College. Like in Regent's Park Masjid is where the lecture is going to be taking place. It's a free seminar, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 10 to 6, and it's free. I think it's Eventbrite or something like that. Go on their website or their Instagram, so you can register. It's free to register and it's free to attend. So next week, no class because of the seminar over there. And then during Ramadan, there won't be any manager Salikin classes or anything. I won't be here during the month of Ramadan. There may be lectures during the month of Ramadan, like I won't be doing any classes during the month of Ramadan. So inshallah, I see you after Ramadan. After Ramadan, we're going to start Kitab al-Nikah for Manager Salikin. Since we finished Kitab al-Tahara and Kitab al-Salah, we're going to start Kitab al-Salah for Manager Salikin. And Manager Salikin, as you know, is obviously easier than Zaad and Mustaqni, even though they're both easy. Inshallah, I'll see you after Ramadan. Take advantage of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq during the month of Ramadan.
Going away from you.
Adam.